have you ever just looked up at that spider web of wires crisscrossing your neighborhood and thought, why are they all at different heights? It looks totally random, right? Well, it's not. It's actually a super carefully planned system. So let's dive in and uncover these invisible rules that keep us safe from all that electricity flowing right over our heads.
So let's just cut right to the chase. How low can a power line legally hang over your head? The answer is, well, it really depends on where you're standing.
So where do these rules even come from? It's all laid out in something called the National Electrical Code, or the NEC. You can think of it as the official rulebook for electricians and engineers. It's packed with numbers, and every single one is there for a reason, to make sure the power that runs our lives doesn't end up hurting us. All right, so let's start our journey on the ground, literally. We're talking about pedestrian zones, places we walk every day. So what's the absolute lowest a wire is allowed to hang?
The number is 10 feet. Yep, just 10 feet. That's probably not much higher than the ceiling in your house. It's the lowest you'll ever legally see a power line, but, and this is a big but, it only applies under some very specific conditions.
So here's the catch. That 10-foot rule, it's only for spaces where only people can walk, sidewalks, walking paths, that kind of thing. And, just as important, it's only for low voltage lines. We're talking 150 volts or less. It's all about keeping the risk as low as possible where there's a lot of foot traffic.
Okay, so that covers us when we're walking down the street. But what about when we get home? What about our own property, like our driveways? Well, as you might guess, the rules change. Here, the number jumps up a little bit to 12 feet. This is a really common standard you'll find over most residential driveways and even some smaller commercial parking lots.
So this 12-foot rule applies to places like your driveway at home, or commercial lots where you're not expecting big trucks to be rolling through. You'll also notice the voltage limit has gone up. Now we're talking about lines up to 300 volts. But what happens if those lines are carrying even more power? And this is where things get really interesting. For the exact same spot, say right over your driveway, if the line is carrying more than 300 volts, the required clearance suddenly jumps to 15 feet. It's a simple idea, but it's absolutely critical. More power needs more distance. That's because higher voltage can actually arc or jump through the air, so you need a much bigger safety bubble around it. Okay, so we've covered people on foot and cars and driveways. Now let's zoom out to the big public roads, where you've got everything from delivery vans to massive semi-trucks. For these areas, the clearance takes a really big leap up to 18 feet. That's a pretty significant height, and for good reason. It's high enough to let the vast majority of vehicles on the road pass underneath without any issues. This 18-foot rule is kind of the workhorse of the code. It covers all public streets, alleys, and roads. It's for parking lots that get truck traffic. It even applies to places like farms and forests, where you might have tall agricultural or logging equipment. Basically, if a big vehicle could drive there, it's got to be 18 feet. So we've gone from sidewalks to streets, but believe it or not, there's one final level of clearance. This one stands way above all the others, and it's designed for one of the most powerful things we've built. Get ready for this number, 24.5 feet. That's almost 25 feet straight up in the air. This is the absolute maximum height we're going to see, and it's reserved for a really specific, really critical environment.
So where on earth do you need that much space? Over railroad tracks. And when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Trains are incredibly tall. They often run on their own powerful electrical systems, and they're a vital part of our country's infrastructure. You just can't afford for anything to go wrong, so the safety margin is huge.
Wow. Okay, so we've made the whole journey from the sidewalk all the way up to the railway. Now let's just take a step back and put all the pieces together to see this hidden safety system in full view. So here it is, the whole ladder of electrical safety. It starts at 10 feet for pedestrians. It climbs to 12 or 15 feet for our homes, depending on the voltage. It gets up to 18 feet for roads with truck traffic, and it tops out at a massive 24.5 feet for railroads. Each step up is directly connected to the environment and the level of risk on the ground below. And that is really the key takeaway here. The different heights of all those wires over your head, they are not an accident. It's a carefully engineered system, hiding in plain sight, all designed to keep us safe every single day. It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? The next time you're outside, just look up and see if you can spot these different rules in action. And maybe ask yourself, what other invisible rules are out there quietly and constantly making sure our complex world keeps running?